Dune Awakening's Harkonnen build set isn't the easiest thing to use, so today I'll be building the Harkonnen Manor House, a build designed to make the Harkonnen set feel grand and regal. Let's see if we can make something good from this monolithic set of steel and plastone. The blueprint for each floor is on screen now, and as it's built here it requires roughly 8,000 plastone and a single advanced subfief. I built it right here in the shield wall, though there's plenty of spots this could fit. So let's begin. So as you may have seen in the title, this video won't be in its usual format, and there's a bit of a funny reason behind that. I was planning out a video of 5 build tips specifically for the Harkonnen build set, and I realised that actually I haven't used the Harkonnen set all that much. I definitely needed a bit more time behind the wheel, so to speak, before I could give some solid tips for this set, so I thought I'd throw up something of a test build. I do this quite often across this game and Conan. If I'm unsure about something, I'll just put together a fairly normal build and work out how to bridge the gap between what the set has and what I actually want. That is exactly what this build was, something I could throw up to learn more about the Harkonnen set, and like usual, I record the process so I can refer back to it for notes or keep any clips that show particular tricks in situ, B-roll footage, so on and so forth. Usually that's exactly what happens, and then I get rid of the build and take whatever I've learned. However, by the time I finally got this build finished, I actually really liked it. The building process itself is nowhere near as clean as I'd want it to be. There's quite a few times where I end up going back on myself and making some adjustments, but hopefully that could be a good learning experience for people who are trying to get into the Harkonnen set, or just get better at building in Dune in general. As for the specifics, this being a test build, it wasn't initially designed to be a proper PvE base, though it most certainly could be. It turns out there's more than enough space for almost everything you'd need. You might struggle to fit in a large spice refinery, for example, but smaller adjustments could be made to make it fit. You'll also likely notice that there are no pentashields. I got a comment recently saying pentashields weren't really necessary in Hangar Basin. The sandstorm doesn't damage buildings if they're powered, and vehicles are safe so long as they're sheltered. Well, to be frank, I actually really like how pentashields look, but seeing as this is a test build, I decided to try it without pentashields, and with a good design on both the hangar and the garage, I think it can work. I still aesthetically prefer to have them. In fact, I think it gives Harkonnen a lot of value and a nice and often needed tonal lift. But yeah, it's not too bad to leave them out, but you will need quite a deep garage and /or hangar. In the learning endeavour, I also tried a couple of different things with the architecture. Harkonnen has a big issue of just blending into one big blob, so I tried out some bunker style windows to introduce some pattern breaking around the ramps. I've seen a few builds now that use these and they work really well. Same with some internal structuring using ramps. That was really game changing for Harkonnen. Both of them will likely show up in the Harkonnen build tips video I'm working on, so you can take this as, I guess, a little bit of a preview. In the end, I threw some lighting into the build and decorated some of the spaces, and the manor came out pretty nicely. Considering this was basically meant to be a build just for me to learn some stuff, in the end, I think it's probably my best Harkonnen build so far out of those I've published and those I've built behind the scenes. Had I known beforehand it would turn out as such, I would have made this into a build guide, but hopefully the long form style of a speed build will help some people in learning as opposed to the more step-by-step guides I usually do. Anyway, with that being said, I'm going to let the rest of this build run. I'll leave a chapter on the play bar below so you can skip ahead to the finished build if you so desire, and I'll also have a small handful of Solido replicators for this build available on the Hangar world cluster when you're watching this. Again, this isn't really a build I planned to make public, it was more for me to learn, but it turned out pretty good, and I thought you guys might want to see not only the build, but the journey to get there, mistakes and all. Quick self-plug before I go, Patreon in the description for early video access and more. You can join as a channel member here on YouTube to get a fancy loyalty badge next to your comments, and the link to my music channel Sanctite Prayer is also in the description. Anyway, that's enough yap from me. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the build.